Hey there, and welcome to the Jeffrey Van Dyke Show, a podcast for paradigm changers. Each week I speak with another influential leader who's changing the conversation for their audience, their industry, and this world. I am so glad you're here. Welcome to the show. Brett Jones, thank you so much for being here with us. Welcome to the Jeffrey Van Dyke Show. I'm really, there's a lot I want to get into, so I'll just do a little introduction and we'll dive right in. Okay. So Brett Jones spent 10 years in the Navy, serving as a Navy SEAL. After 13 years working, 13 years after that, working as a GRS agent, global response staff for the CIA, the CEO of Riley Security and Echo 9/11. You're also the author of Pride, the story of the first gay Navy SEAL, and recently wrote, produced, starred in a movie called Once a Hero. Has the movie title changed, by the way, since the bio was written?
Yeah, we wrote it under the title of Only Easy Day. Got it.
Beautiful. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. But here's where I want to dive in. Navy SEAL, you were in the Navy starting when?
All right. I joined, I want to say it was the end of 93. And and then I served until 2003. So 10 years.
Got it. Thank you, first and foremost.
Oh, well, it was my pleasure. I had a lot of fun doing
it. So did you join the Navy already, like, out? Did you know you were gay? Were you out to anybody in your life in 93 when you joined?
Yeah. I was, I was out to my family. They sort of, I've got one of those typical kind of coming out stories where they found out and then I got kicked out of the house. And during that process of when I was kicked out of the house and I was working at Subway and finishing up high school, and that's when I decided to join the Navy. They eventually came around though, so it's not like this, awful story. But and certainly people have much worse coming out stories than that, for sure. And but yeah, I knew I was gay. I've known I was gay probably since I was like 6. I mean, I've just always known that I've always been attracted to guys. And I went through the whole self-deprecation that a lot of us went through during that time period. But yeah, I knew.
So what I find fascinating is you go in, it's during Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, I heard you say, it's a don't get caught policy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was don't get your ass caught. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you served for quite a while keeping that a secret.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And when did that, did you date during that time? Did you have a partner? What was that like for you?
So it was, it was a lot of lying, really, to be honest with you. It was just a lot of lying to people, which I hated doing. But for me to be able to keep doing what I did, I had to. I went to some extremes of having a girlfriend of mine act like a real girlfriend of mine at some events. I did date, but it was very, sort of secretive. I did get in a relationship, a long-lasting relationship with a gentleman that was also in the Navy. And ultimately, that was the person that I was with when the Navy found out about my sexuality. And it was all because I had made a phone call. I just gotten back off of a deployment as a SEAL, and they had this party for me. I was drinking back then, and I drank a little too much, and so I went to bed and didn't give as much attention to the person I was with at the time that I should have. I woke up and I gave them a call, and it went to their voicemail at their work, and I left a message saying, "Hey, sorry about last night, and I love you, bye." And yeah, yeah, and that was all it took. And someone heard that voicemail and then reported it, and then it turned into this big ugly deal that was, yeah, it was an awful experience. And I'm really glad, one of the things that I'm very happy to see with the military now is that that's not an issue that these soldiers have to deal with anymore. And that makes me very proud, for sure.
Before this happened, I'll ask you a little bit about that experience, but before it happened, were you out to any of your fellow SEALs? Were you out to anybody that you worked with, or did that need to just keep like completely hidden in order to not get caught?
Yeah, so no, I wasn't out to anybody that I can recall. But I will tell you that I had a friend, a really close buddy of mine in the SEAL teams, and we were in the same platoon together, that he had read a diary page that I kept this little sort of diary in the back of this folder, and he had read it, and and he knew that I was gay by reading it. And he kept it a secret the whole time and acted like he didn't know. And just really, really good friend. But yeah, no, none of my Navy guys at that time knew anything about it. Yeah.
So when this person reported it, what was the process during Don't Ask, Don't Tell? Like, how did they deal with, hey, I think he's gay. I heard this thing. I love you. Bye.
Yeah, it was. It was an ordeal. So I remember I was at a free fall school in Arizona, and it was really cool. Like I've been waiting a while to get to go to the school, and it's basically where you go and jump out of planes, high altitude, low opening. It was a lot of fun. Skydiving school, basically. And
intense.
What's that?
Intense skydiving.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. And I got a call from my commanding officer that I needed, or my command master chief, who's a high-ranking individual at my SEAL team, that I need to get on the next plane back to Norfolk, Virginia. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's this about? And as I was packing my stuff and headed to the airport, I was just torn. I didn't know what could I have possibly. I thought that maybe, we had something had happened on this deployment that I had just come off of. I don't know. And when I got on the plane and we were flying, I stopped in Atlanta, I believe. It kind of dawned on me, and I was like, oh shit, they found out I'm gay somehow.
Yeah.
And so when I landed in Atlanta, I called a buddy of mine up in Texas, a photographer friend, and who's gay. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I think the Navy found out that I'm gay. And he put me in contact with a group called the Service League, the SLGN, Service League Gay. Now, I remember the acronym was SLGM, but basically it was a nonprofit with these lawyers that worked with people that were going through that and it was the best advice. The best phone number anyone could have given me at that point. And I called them, and they immediately put me on the phone with one of the lawyers that worked there, and told me exactly step by step what was going to happen when my plane landed in Virginia. And it was exactly as they said. So my plane lands, I get there, my command master chief picks me up, acting like nothing, like he doesn't know what's going on, although I could tell he knew what was going on. And it was just very awkward. I was in my uniform and he was in his uniform, and it was just very awkward exchange. And he drove me to this facility, and once we got to the facility, I knew exactly how it happened, because the facility was at the command of the guy that I was with at the time. And so I get into this room, this conference room. It's like 60 degrees, and then they had turned the air conditioner. It was crazy. And this captain, who was captain in the Navy, is an 06, so that's a very high-ranking JAG officer comes in. She throws this file on my right in front of me. She goes, "I want you to read that." And I'm looking through it, and yeah, it was, the investigation was for me, breaking the don't ask, don't tell policy, and then commenced with an onslaught of questions, and they were very clever. Her questions were, and they were designed to get me to admit that I was gay, which would have given the Navy the leverage to have me kicked out and or dishonorably discharged. Which, you got to think, like, a dishonorable discharge is a really bad thing. In a lot of states, at least at the time, you couldn't even own a weapon. Like, it would be like an ex-felon, right? That's how it looks. It's
Right.
like McDonald's wouldn't hire me.
Yeah.
So it was a very serious charge, and but the lawyers prepared me really well. And that, hour, 30-minute long conversation that we had while I was in Atlanta, and I will be forever grateful to them.
I'm always fascinated by what I might call grace, like that you called your friend, that, well, first of all, that the little light bulb went on in your head while on the plane. Oh crap. It might be this, right?
Yeah.
And you call your photographer buddy who knows about this this organization, right, that supports gays, lesbians in the military, and that they are able to get right on the phone with you, walk you through it, and say, the moment you land, here's how it's going to go down.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a pretty short period of time to go from being on the plane, having the aha idea, having a layover, so you can call your buddy, get this other conversation handled, land, and be prepared for it. That to me is like such grace. That's amazing.
Yeah, it makes my heart get it was an amazing, it was an amazing order of events for sure.
Yeah. And I seem to recall part of how you ended up having to answer many of these questions is something, I was advised not to.
Yes, my legal counsel. I want. God, what was the line? I should know it by heart because I had to say it like 100 times that day. But yeah, it was something along the lines, per legal counsel, I'm advised not to, speak on
it or speak of that. Yeah.
And that is literally what I said, from the time I sat down in there, and it was a long time. I mean, we were in there a long time. They had found out about a vacation that we had went on and that we had bought the house together. They did their research. So they knew about it for probably a month or two leading up to that. So it was they did their homework for sure.
And that went on for a couple months. Yes,
it went on for a long time. And as a Navy SEAL, I had all of my clearances taken from me, which was really embarrassing, which meant that I couldn't go to my SEAL team, my place of work, without being escorted by somebody. In fact, I couldn't even be in my SEAL team at all. I had to go wash cars across the street at this, it was called a motor pool. It's where, all the vehicles were. And so I would wash the cars and I would work on small engines while this whole investigation was going on. And it went on for months. And eventually it came to an end. And I want to say that it was Senator Kerry, actually, at the time, that put a kibosh to that investigation, because the lawyers had put me in touch with somebody that was incredibly helpful and well connected in the DC area, and she then I guess reached out to Senator Kerry's office. She was a lobbyist, and super helpful. And then it was just, I guess, a matter of a phone call. He called, say, "Hey, this is stupid, stop it." And then that was the end of the investigation. And so again, a crazy order of events. I look back on it and I'm not upset. Like, I sometimes I get upset, but I try to realize like, hey, this was a great experience for me to go through and learn about the world that I live in, especially at such a young age. And yeah, it was. I'm not upset about it. In fact, one of the wonderful things about that whole experience is I saw the kind of selfless love that and support that people will give you if you just
Mhm.
reach out and ask for it.
Mhm.
And that was a very beautiful experience for me.
Yeah. Uh, I'm also just struck, all these resources. It takes people saying, okay, we're going to build an organization to help these folks. We're going to get you in touch with lobbyists. The lobbyists are in touch with Senator Kerry. That there is just person after person. Meanwhile, you have a fully trained Navy SEAL washing cars, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a bit of humble pie for sure.
Uh,
And it was right across the street from my SEAL team. And I remember I just look up and I'd see them going in, and I was just like, oh man,
yeah,
wax on, wax off.
yeah. What do you think that, like, looking back, I hear the lesson about selfless love. What do you think some of the, like, what do you feel like, oh yeah, looking back, because it's been a while now, right?
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
2002. What are some of the big, how did it shape you? What are some of the big lessons you really walked away with that maybe it's taken years to integrate?
Well, I think the biggest lesson is that, again, the whole, asking for help when you need it is, and it's still a lesson that I learned today. I'll try and hard nose my way through things, and it's still one of those lessons I have to tell myself, like, oh, Brett, just ask for help. And so that was probably the biggest lesson. But also, how I remember at that time I had a really big ego, because that was sort of the whole training process, right? So you go into this, you work really hard to get into this program, and then you get into the program, and then you have to really work really hard, and it's a very, at least then, it was a very ego driven thing, right? And you kind of had to, and I understand why they sort of drove, that you're the best and this and all that sort of stuff, because the work you did was incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
But I remember when that was gone, just like in an instant, what that felt like. And that was a very powerful experience in itself, right? Like,
Losing that identity.
getting that ego and that identity just shot down like that. And who am I now, right? Who am I now that I'm not a Navy SEAL, that I'm a dude washing cars, and I've got to figure out a way to really like this guy now. And it was definitely a learning experience. And
You know,
I still get those experiences all the time. Not
I,
all the time, but
I think anybody that is growing and learning in life, and hasn't kind of just shut down and is going on autopilot, we are continually building identities and shedding identities. We talked before we started just about the film. We'll talk about that in a bit, but that's another identity: filmmaker, writer, right? That's a new identity. And I don't know, in my life, certainly, when I've had, like, oh, I've made it with whatever the thing is,
yeah.
and then either it crashes and burns, or usually it's something that just, like, I made it and then I live it, and then time moves on, and it's time for something else, and you lose that identity. It is painful. It's hard, that who am I now middle place. But it is the very place that prepares you for what's next. That inquiry of who am I now? How do I like this guy without that identity? Gets us closer and closer and closer to ourselves every time. And I see time and again that it is, that time is the preparation for what's next. And it's the required preparation. When So when did you leave the SEALs?
So the investigation ended, I want to say it was at the end of 2002. And then my EOS date, which was my end of enlistment day, or my end of service date, was, I want to say it was in June of that year. And so my commander of 2003 was June of 2003, I think. And so my the commander of my SEAL team and the command master chief brought me into their office, and they're like, "Hey, the investigation's over. You're good. You can get back to work. Here's, all your clearances are good," and all that sort of stuff. And they're like, "So do you want to go out with this next platoon heading out the door?" And I was like, "No, I don't." I said, I'm going to get out, because I knew that a lot of people, like a lot of high ranking people, knew now that I was gay, because once I got put on under investigation, it didn't become a secret. Like, SEALs are some of the most elite trained people in the world, but they're also a bunch of old women that sit around and talk and gossip, right? And so it was no secret anymore that I was gay. And I knew that, and you got to understand, and I look back on it, and I think it was a very wise decision to go ahead and get out at my end of service date, because don't ask, don't tell, didn't get reprieve for many, many years after that. And so I would have had to kept doing that for the next
keeping the secret when the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, cat was out of the bag. And so I just went ahead and got out. And surprising though, I was actually still in the Navy. I was on what they call terminal leave, so I had 60 days of leave saved up. So I took it all at once at the end, the last 2 months there. And the CIA kind of came a knocking on my door and was like, "Hey, do you want to come work for us? We don't care if you're gay." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that'd be awesome." And you get to do kind of the same stuff you did as a SEAL, and we'll pay you more. I was like, "All right, that sounds like a deal to me."
Yeah. So you did that for a number of years as well, yeah?
Yeah, 13. Yeah.
When did you publish your book? Right after that?
So my book came out in, oh my gosh, I want to say it was right around the time that the Supreme Court ruled in favor of gay marriage. Was that 2016 or 2017?
I think 16.
Yeah, I can't remember. But it was, I had my book that came out probably 4 months or something like that before that. And then the Supreme Court ruled in favor of gay marriage, which was really exciting time for all of us gay people, because especially the reason I was so excited about it was I was so terrified that I was going on deployments and I was married. I found my husband in 2009, I think, and we've been together ever since. And I was really worried that I wasn't going to be able to get if something happened to me, because the work that I did was very dangerous.
Yeah.
And the chances of me getting killed on one of these deployments was very real. And so I was worried that the insurance from the insurance wasn't going to pay, my husband and my son, because we weren't, technically married. That was a big concern. We were married. We got married up in New Jersey. We got drunk one night and drove up to New Jersey and got hitched. And then, it wasn't a recognized thing. And I was just so happy that happened, because, if something happened to me, then I knew that my husband and son were going to be taken care of.
Yeah. I want to get into the book, then we'll talk a bit about the movie. Okay. So you write this book, and you go from being a SEAL and an operative in the CIA. I don't know if operative is the right word, but working for the CIA.
It works.
Right. And then you write Pride, the story of the first openly gay Navy SEAL. Talk about another transition, right? From being in with the CIA to being an author, and telling your story. Why did you What compelled you to tell this story?
Well, and at least from the research that I've done since the book came out, it's kind of a tip. My story is typical with a lot of other writers. I didn't write the book to publish it initially. I wrote it as a gift to my son, Ethan, in the event that something happened to me or whatever, so that he would get to sort of know me in that sort of aspect of my life and the challenges, and maybe it would serve as an inspiration to him. I don't know. And but I came back. I did it on deployment. I was in Afghanistan, actually, in Kandahar when I wrote the book. It happened to be a very dull trip. Like, there wasn't a lot going on. And so I had a lot of free time. So I wrote the book, and I got home, and we were at a family gathering, and my brother-in-law was like, "Hey man, how was your trip?" I was like, "It was pretty boring. I wrote a book." And he's like, "Oh really?" I was like, "Yeah, you want to read it?" He's like, "Sure." So he came by, he read it, and his reaction to the book, we had lunch the next day, and actually he's the reason, the true reason that book got published was because of the things that he said, how it affected him, and so I reached out to
What did he say?
it was, he called me the night before saying that we were gonna, asking if we could have lunch the next day, or I think I said, I can't remember how that went down, but I remember the phone call for sure, and it was pretty emotional for him, and he's very straight, tough guy, H-back kind of, just really really cool guy, and so for him to get that kind of reaction, I was like, oh wow, that's maybe, I don't know, maybe it's something special there. And so when we talked, we had lunch, the idea that this story could help other people, right? And sort of similar situations. And I was like, yeah, that if it helps, that would be awesome, right? Like, that would be a win for sure. And so yeah, we got the book published, and it did, and it was amazing. Like, it was this period, where I guess like anything, it's really popular for a little bit and then kind of dies off or whatever. But during that time, there was a lot of emails, a lot of letters, a lot of just amazing things from people all over the world, and how that book had affected them. And I remember just thinking, just one of those, like just one, like I would have been just super content with that, but it actually affected, many more. And so it was a beautiful win. It did come at a cost, though.
Yeah. What's the cost?
Well, the cost was, now I have this book out there that, basically says that I'm a gay Navy SEAL, and I was working for the CIA at the time, and they knew, the agency itself knew I was gay. I was very honest on all my background stuff, but a lot of the people that I worked with, I worked with the global response GRS agent, and that group attracts a lot of, because you have to have like 10 years or something of special operations experience. So you have to be like a Navy SEAL, a Ranger, whatever. And so that attracts a certain type of people, or it did. And and it was unfortunate, because it led into, some other stuff, but it did, it caused me a lot of problems.
You were harassed straight up.
Yeah. It was a bad trip for sure. And what was funny is the book had come out 4 months prior, and I'd done a trip right after the book had come out, but I was with this amazing group of people, right? It was just the perfect group of people to be with. And I went home for 2 months, came back for my next trip for 2 months, and that trip just happened to be the perfect storm of the wrong people at the wrong place when the Supreme Court ruled in favor of gay marriage. It all happened, within a week to 2 weeks. It was crazy. And so yeah, it was an awful experience. But I was fortunate to get out of there safe, and yeah, and that was another, hey,
Yeah.
learn from it and move forward. But I got to say that I was really happy with how the agency, handled that. I think that they took it very seriously once it got to a certain level, like the director actually's level. It was handled really well, I feel, and hopefully it won't happen again.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I think that's one of the things that I just love hearing in this conversation is you were supported in some really amazing ways during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, when you were in the Navy. Later on, you go and you write this book. There are many people then, passing it forward, other folks hearing your story that need to hear it. Yeah, that came at a cost as well. Right. But I think as people with a message for the world, and when I say for the world, I mean, for the people it's meant for, we have to be willing to encounter the cost, and I think there's a cost to not doing it too. After your brother read it and had that emotional response and said, hey, I think you should consider publishing this. I just imagine you sitting on it, not doing it, and the cost that could have been, right?
Yeah.
Especially knowing what you know now with the messages you've received from folks. What if you look back at the messages you received from people, if there was a theme to them, like what did reading this do for many of them? If there was a theme to it, what would it be?
Well, there was a couple that I really stand out. And there was this young sailor, I believe he was a sailor or Marine, who had put it like this really cool bottle and wrote the message and then burned the message, put it in a bottle and did this whole really cool thing with it and then sent it to me. And then
just imagine you opening up like, what's this bottle?
I know, it was funny for a while there. The folks in my office were like, you got to open your mail up outside because we don't want anything exploding in here. But yeah, it was just this incredibly sweet story, about the very similar, the so many similarities that we have, being in the military and gay and struggling with accepting yourself, as well as do I say something to somebody about this? And one that really stuck out was this sailor in I want to say it's the Singaporean Navy, or maybe it was the Filipino Navy. I can't remember, but it was so because it was much more serious and grave in his situation than any than we face here in the United States, even during the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. Like it's a really, really big deal over there to be gay, at least back then when he wrote the letter. I'm not sure how it is now. But even though the thing that I got out of the letter was like, even though I know I'm gay and my family doesn't, and the Navy doesn't. He was an officer in that Navy, and he says it brings me hope to read a story like this that that maybe one day it'll change.
Yeah.
And it was I might have choked up a bit reading that one. It was yeah.
That's so good. I think one of the things that we can do sharing our story is certainly give people hope. And sometimes if it's sometimes give them permission, right? Permission to feel what they feel, permission to maybe share their story, depending on, if you're in a place where it's not going to detrimentally impact your life. But I certainly think hope is one of the primary things I'm hearing from you, is like, hey, I was given a helping hand. There were people there for me. And all those years, I imagine you being a SEAL and in the closet in the Navy, I can't imagine that you would have ever thought that there was that amount of support for you.
Not a million years.
And,
Not in a million years. Not a million years. Yeah.
And I think that's a lesson for us all. There is often so much more support in this world for us than we ever realize. And usually, for a lot of us, it takes really hitting the skids to reach out, right? Yeah. Okay, uncle, I'll ask for support.
Yeah. One of the things, even with that it really brings into focus how important it is for you to help somebody when they ask for it, or when you see that they need it. It really drives home that importance as well, because, there's just, I think back, like, what would have happened if those people hadn't been so willing to help me.
Yeah.
And it really drives home the fact that as a person, that I really need to try harder to be a person that helps other people.
Yeah. You've done some other advocacy work. I think you've been involved with the Trevor Project and some other things since then. Yeah.
I have not been involved with the Trevor Project. Although I'm very, I support what they do, and I think that's an amazing thing for sure. I do, here in Alabama, we had some, we had a Supreme Court justice that was kind of wreaking havoc, and so I participated in that, as far as it was selfish. I honestly, I wanted my family to be able to be a family here in Alabama. And so yeah, I wrote some articles, and I advocated against him. But it was obviously I do care about other gay people here in Alabama and all that sort of stuff. But at the core, I was like, I just want to live here in the state with my family. And
well, I think, for a lot of folks on the margins, in whatever that margin is, a lot of the justice seeking is just that. Hey, I just want to be able to live.
Yeah.
And whether you're gay or marginalized in some other way, where were you raised?
So I'm a military brat. So
everywhere.
There's a laundry list. Egypt, Korea, Germany, Arizona, Texas, Pennsylvania. I'm all over.
Yeah. What were your folks like? Like, how were you raised?
My folks were very religious. My mom, found Jesus at when I was very little, and she became a very devout Christian. And I think my father just kind of followed in line with that.
Yeah.
And so that was, the upbringing that I had, which, kind of leads to the whole why I got kicked out, why I got kicked out of the house when they found out.
Yeah. I'm curious, a lot of the folks that I work with, if there's a religious upbringing in their past, oftentimes it's one that has some pain associated with it. I'm curious, I don't know if you've given any thought to this, but I imagine if I were had ever done anything close to what you've done as a SEAL or working with the CIA, having faith in something, I imagine it being a lifeline for me. I'm curious, like, what's your journey been around religion, around faith? Does that play a role, or has it played a role in your life, especially getting through all of this?
Yeah, sure. In fact, more so in the last 2 years than ever before. And it's like, so I'm an alcoholic, right? And part of the whole, there's anonymous groups and so on and so forth, where people go, and I was struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder and being an alcoholic, and so again, another time where I need to raise my hand and be like, I need help.
Yeah.
And again, once again, it was there. And but it was through that process that I learned that I had to believe in something. Now, it doesn't have to be God, it doesn't have to be Jesus, but it needs to be a higher power, or something of my own understanding.
Yeah.
And so, because that's the way that I'm going to get sober, and I'm going to stay sober.
Yeah.
And so I was able to do that, and very easily, I might add. It wasn't a huge, it wasn't a very difficult thing. I just wanted to stop drinking. And it was through that process that and I kind of, it's weird, like, because I believe, because, they tell you, create this God of your own understanding, and whatever. And so the way that it worked with me, and the way that I experience my higher power, or God, is a lot like the wind.
Huh.
And in that I can feel it sometimes, a lot of times, but there's times that I don't. But there's also, I can see what the wind, how the wind moves trees and does all these incredible things in the world around you. That's how I see it in other people. And I see, some, just like, the odds are like millions and millions to one of things happening that I will literally witness right in front of me. And it just is so awe-inspiring that I even describe, I've got a sponsor, and I told him, I was like, sometimes when I see some of the stuff that, this wind or higher power or God does, that it almost is like looking at the Grand Canyon, and that you go there and you see this, and it's just this something that's so big and so beautiful that you don't even believe it's real, because it looks almost, it's like a painting in front of you. And it's like, how is that? It's just so awe-inspiring. And that's the way that my higher power, or my God, sort of works in my life. And it's really special.
That's awesome. I've never heard of it like the wind, and I love that. There's because I'm right outside my window here, right? I'm looking. I have a bunch of trees all around my house, and right there I see the leaves moving, and it's you could, if using that frame, I can go, oh, I can look out at any time and see it in action. Whether or not I feel personally connected to it in that moment, I can look out and see it, and
it's like, how would you describe wind to somebody that's never seen it or experienced it, right? It would be a very difficult thing to explain to somebody.
And I also find that when we take time to connect to something, whatever that is, however we frame it, however we hold it, however we're in relationship with it, whatever we place our focus on, we start to see evidence of it, right? More and more and more. And I love you saying, oh my gosh, I'm starting to see this wind. Oh, it's over there. And oh, there, it's in that person's life. And oh, it's in this experience. I'm wondering, now that you've got this connection to the wind, when you're having difficult times, and we'll get into the movie here in just a minute, we're working on something that's like Whew, that's pushing a boulder up a hill.
Yeah.
Uh, how does this faith, how does this connection to this God, this wind, help you get through? Like what role does it play?
So I try to, when I pray, but I try to keep my prayers very, like there's only 2 or 3 prayers that I ever really say. And because I don't want to be selfish, I don't want it to be a gimme, or whatever, it's, that kind of a thing, right? And so there's the Serenity Prayer,
Yeah.
which is more of a mantra to me than it is a prayer. And it's really, you're asking God to grant you the serenity to accept the things you cannot change, and then the courage to change the things you can. And then when you really wrap your head around that, it's like crazy how much of this world, everything going on around you, is not in your control, like 99% of it. Yet we worry, we stress, we, get jealous, we get envious, we get greedy, we get all these crazy things over stuff that we have no control over. And so when I start feeling negative emotions, whatever they may be, I really try to focus on that Serenity Prayer. And I remember the first time, I'd been sober probably 2 weeks or something. And this was a couple of years ago. I really sat down, focused on that meditated even on that prayer, and it worked. Like it was like serenity. It was like this cool summer breeze that kind of just blew over me, and I wasn't. It just is peace. Like peace is cool, right? And it just is a nice feeling. And I was like, wow, that actually really works. And so, and then my other prayer is basically that I don't, that I say, people ask me to pray for them or whatever, my prayer is this, is just, hey, you're my higher power, you know what's right, you do what you're supposed to do, and if it involves me in any way, please make it clear, and then give me courage or excitement to want to do that.
Uh-huh.
And and that's it. And that's really, and that boulder, that proverbial boulder you're pushing up a hill, it's it's like, hey, this sucks, right? And if is this something I can control, is it something I can't control, and I try to focus on that part of it. And but there are times in this life that it's gonna suck, because welcome to planet Earth. And sometimes you do have to push a boulder up a hill, but at the end of the day, it's just work, right? Like it's it's not anything to be scared of. Work is just work. And it can be frustrating, and it can be trying, and all that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's nothing to be scared of. It's just work.
Well, tell me about the movie. So I love it when people do seemingly random, unexpected things like, oh, I'm gonna become a Navy SEAL, and then I'll go through all that. I'll leave. I'll work with the CIA for another decade or so. Then I'll write a book. I mean, for my son, sure, but okay, now I'm publishing it, and that included, a fair amount of PR and media exposure at that time. You're working on a movie now. It's beginning to make the rounds. Tell us a little bit about the movie.
So the movie is called Once a Hero, and it's a story about a homeless veteran. And that's it in a nutshell, really. I was a part of a really cool I went through this school here called Leadership, Huntsville, Madison County. And it's a group of 50 or 60 executives and diplomats and elected officials and judges and blah blah blah, all that sort of stuff, and they put you all together, and you go through a class for about a year. And at some point during this year, they break you off into groups of 6 or 7, and they're like, hey, go do something cool for the community. Right. Yep. And so our group decided to make a documentary about what it was like to be homeless. So myself and a professor, an Indian professor over here at UAH, went homeless for 4 days, and we documented the whole thing, and we made this video, and it's called Homeless in Huntsville on YouTube if you want to watch it. And it was awesome, and it did so many really cool things, and the experience itself was life-changing, and really put into focus to me, again, that, really, how do you help other people? Like, how do you, and it was a beautiful experience. And so we finished that thing, and it had a lot of really great success, and raised money for these different organizations in the film. And we're like, hey, how do we do this even bigger? And we're like, oh, let's make a movie. Like, like, it's super easy. Like, we'll go do it this weekend. And so I had previous experience writing, and so the group of us were like, all right, well, I'll write it. I don't, it can't be that hard. So I went and read a few books on how to write a screenplay. Well, 8 months later, yeah, it's really hard. Like, writing a script is not easy, or a screenplay. And so we had the script, and then we went through the whole, pre-production, and then we had it's an independent film. And I will tell you, through this experience, I've learned that I have a whole lot of respect for independent filmmakers that make their movie, because it is so hard. Everything is fighting against you to keep you from making this movie. I mean, it's as if, the universe wants to make sure you really want to do this.
You really want to tell this story?
Yeah. So it was an awesome experience, but a very, very challenging one that took almost 4 years. It was a lot of work, and a lot of people and I'm very thankful that we did it here in Huntsville, because we have such an amazing group of talented people that participated in this whole project, from the music, the composers, the color graders, the actors, the crew, our director, everybody that played a part in this movie did it out of love for the project, and the message that it will hopefully deliver, and the light that it will shed on the whole homeless veteran problem, and addiction, and some other issues that we touch on in that movie.
Is it out? Do you have a date when it will come out?
I don't. It's making its rounds in the film festivals right now. And once that's done, I know we have an agent for the film, and so I don't know when and where you'll be able to see it, other than at some of these film festivals that we're waiting to hear if we've been accepted or not.
Got it. And the name of it once again?
Once a Hero.
Once a Hero. Awesome. Great. We'll keep our eyes out for it.
Yeah.
And you wrote it, and then you were the main actor.
I was. Yep. Yeah, but I auditioned. I did the whole deal. Yeah. I wanted it because so many people put their, when I wrote this whole thing, and I got to really liking this character, this main character, because he was every other seal that not every other seal, but some very important seals in my life were in this guy, and I was like, I know this guy, like I know him, and the guy, the director of the initial, we had one director initially, but he couldn't make it to do for the filming. Then we had another director come on, but yeah, I auditioned for that first one. I was like, look, I can nail this thing. I'm telling you, I know this guy. I can hear his voice, and yeah, so that was, I felt very fortunate that they let me play that guy.
Yeah, you had you acted before?
No, not at all. Yeah, it was scary. And so, immediately I go into research mode, and I go and I get watch all the videos and read as many books as I can, and do as much research on it as I possibly could. And yeah, it was, and plus I had to lose 40 pounds to play a homeless guy. And it was awful because, production got delayed by 2 months. So I lost 40 pounds, got down to 168 pounds. And then it was like, now I gotta stay this for 2 more months. And I was like, ah. So I ate some food for about a month, and then I did another cut off again before we actually started filming. And but yeah, it was an awesome experience. Like it was difficult for sure, because we all wore many hats. When I would go home, I was also the DIT. So I'd come home and I would take all the files, from all the cameras and the audio, dump them onto our drive, and then bring the files back in the morning, and then review the footage to make sure that, that nothing got missed or whatever. And yeah, and it wasn't just me, like everybody on this project did, 5-10 different people's jobs to make this production happen. And it was really beautiful to see, all to, shed the light on homeless veterans and, PTSD and addiction. It was really, really special.
Here's what I love about listening to your story. There are certain people who, I call them messengers. They have a message for the world, and they're compelled to by some inner calling. I'm meant to do this. I'm bringing this message to the world. I'm going to go impact this industry or these people or what have you. When I listen to your story, it sounds a bit more like the opportunity arose and you just said, okay, right? So, when I hear about the book, like I wrote it for my son. I wrote it in Afghanistan, wrote it for my son. My brother reads it, is touched, thinks we should publish it. And I go, oh, it's probably more, a little bit more than, oh, okay. But, at some point it's, all right, I'll do that. And then this movie, all right, I'm in a leadership program. We decide to make a short documentary. We do that. It has such good reception that we go, okay, we'll do something more. And that
blindly, though, I might add.
Well, but
I
had
no idea. Yeah, I guess, but I honestly had no. This project was an incredibly challenging one. Like I would, if I'd have known then what I know now, I probably wouldn't have done it for sure. Just because I probably would have, but because I'm knuckleheaded like that. But
here's what I'm saying though. It's kind of like the wind. You were. One thing led to another. You keep saying yes, and things keep unfolding for you to be part of. Like, oh, I'll help contribute to that. And I think more often than not, that's how it works. Sometimes yes, we have a vision, we see the thing, we want to go try to make it happen, and sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't. But when I think about the wind. One of the ways I think about it is like partnering with something. I think, a lot of the religion I was raised with was very subservient, meaning, well, God says, so I must.
Yeah.
Right. But the way I think about it now is more like a partnership. Like the universe is always talking, right? The wind's always flowing. We can either listen or not, right? We can either pay attention or not.
Yeah.
And even if we are paying attention, we can decide whether or not we want to respond. But if we're really partnering, it's like, oh, this opportunity is arising. There's something in me that feels compelled to say yes. I do it, and the next thing unfolds. And yeah, sometimes it means you're biting off a project that was a whole lot more than you ever imagined. Yeah. Right? But hello, we've got one life.
Yeah.
Right? Why not?
Yeah.
So I just love hearing you continue to say yes, right? Okay, great. Yep, that sounds good. Oh, shed a light on that project? Yes, we can do that. Let's go for it. And just like the story about you getting outed in the SEALs, I read a little bit about ahead of time. about all the different talent. You've spoken about all the different talent and support in Huntsville. You made a feature film in your backyard, right? I mean,
well, we
right.
Definitely.
There you have it.
Yeah.
There you have it. You know, the amount of people that come out and say, all right, I'll be part of that too. And just like, you know, when you called your buddy the photographer and it led you to all that support, here's another example of, oh, there's so much more support available than we ever imagined. You know, I think when we're working with the wind, one of the things I always say to my clients is all inspired ideas have a life force to them. There's energy to it. And all the resources required for the full expression of that idea are connected to it, not to you, to it. And if you're partnering with it, oh, I get a sense that we need to do this. Oh, it needs to be, can reach out to this person. Oh, ask this person if they can lend a helping hand. That's where the resources live. Right? They don't live in us so much. They live related to the thing that wants to happen in the world. And we always get the opportunity to see, oh, am I going to dance with that? And I just keep hearing in your story over and over again,
the ways in which you have.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, it's a good life. For sure.
Yeah. Hey, Brett, this has been awesome. This has been great. I really
Yeah.
time and I appreciate your contributions in this world. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate yours as well. And it was really cool meeting you.
Yeah, you too. All right, until next time. And again, everybody, all the resources for Brett's information will be found in the show notes. And let us know when the movie is released in full. We'll add those to the show notes as well.
Okay, you got it.
You got it. Take care. Thank you so much.
See ya.
Hey there, thanks so much for listening in. If this conversation was powerful, if it stirred your soul or inspired your journey, then be sure to share it with a friend. Just copy and paste the link wherever you're listening to this podcast and text that link right now to a friend that you think would be inspired by this episode. And if this is your first time here, be sure to click that subscribe button over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a rating and review so I can get to know you and your thoughts better. To learn more about the work I do with emerging and established paradigm changers, go to thecourageousmessenger.com. That's all for today. Thanks so much for being here, and I hope to see you in the next episode.